When it comes to living a happy, balanced life, one of the most powerful skills you can develop is learning how to control your emotions. Every day, we face challenges that test our patience, our resilience, and our ability to stay calm. Whether it's a frustrating situation at work, a difficult conversation with someone close to you, or the stress that builds up in your day-to-day life, emotions can quickly take over if we aren't careful. But here's the thing, your emotions don't have to control you. You have the ability to take charge of how you react, how you feel, and how you move through life's ups and downs. In this video, we're going to dive deep into practical, actionable strategies that will help you develop emotional mastery. No fluff, no complicated theories, just real advice that you can start using today to keep your emotions in check. It's time to stop letting anger, frustration, or stress run the show. Instead, you'll discover how to respond thoughtfully, remain calm under pressure, and make decisions from a place of clarity, not chaos. Stay tuned, because by the end of this video, you'll have the tools you need to take full control of your emotional responses, and you'll feel more confident and in control of your life. Let's get started. Chapter 1. Emotion or reaction? The choice is yours. Every time we find ourselves in the heat of an emotional moment, whether it's anger, sadness, frustration, or even joy, we have this immediate gut reaction that feels impossible to control. It's like being swept away by a powerful current, and before we know it, we're caught in the tide of that emotion, with little to no say in the matter. But here's the truth, the emotion is only part of the equation. How we respond to it is entirely within our control. This is where real power lies, the ability to recognize that, while we can't always control what we feel, we can absolutely control how we respond to it. Imagine a life where, instead of being at the mercy of your emotions, you become the master of them. Imagine being able to choose your response rather than being pulled into reactive patterns. It's not a pipe dream, it's a skill you can develop with practice. Let me take you on a journey. Think back to a moment in your life when you were overcome by emotion. Maybe it was a heated argument with a loved one, or a moment of failure that made you want to retreat into self-doubt. In that moment, what was your instinct? Did you lash out in anger, withdraw in sadness, or allow anxiety to take over? In all of these instances, you were experiencing an emotional reaction. The emotion came first, and your response followed automatically. This is how most people live, reacting to emotions as though they have no control over them. But what if there's another way? What if, instead of immediately reacting, you took a step back and acknowledged the emotion without letting it dictate your behavior? What if, instead of responding with anger or frustration, you chose a different path, one that gave you the power to decide how to act? This is the essence of emotional control. It's not about suppressing your feelings or pretending they don't exist. It's about acknowledging your emotions, understanding them, and choosing how to respond in a way that serves you, rather than letting them take over. The first step toward mastering your emotions is recognizing that there's a difference between emotions and reactions. Emotions are natural, they come and go, they're not right or wrong, good or bad, they just are. We all feel them, and they're part of what makes us human. But reactions, those are the choices we make in response to our emotions. Reactions are where we have the power. Let's break it down. Imagine you're in a situation where someone says something that rubs you the wrong way. Maybe it's a criticism, a sharp comment, or something that feels like a personal attack. In that moment, you feel your blood start to boil. Anger bubbles up, and your heart starts to race. The emotional response is automatic, but how you respond is where you have a choice. You could snap back with a harsh remark, retaliate, or let the anger fester. Or you could take a deep breath, pause, and choose a more thoughtful response. This is where emotional control comes into play. In the heat of the moment, it's easy to let emotions drive your actions. But when you pause and acknowledge what you're feeling, you create space between the emotion and your reaction. And in that space, you have the power to choose. It's not always easy to do, especially when emotions run high. But with practice, you can train yourself to respond consciously rather than react impulsively. The key is awareness. The more aware you are of your emotions and the triggers that set them off, the easier it becomes to control how you respond. Let's say you're having a stressful day. You've got a lot on your plate, deadlines to meet, appointments to keep, and a never-ending list of things to do. Then, out of nowhere, someone cuts you off in traffic, and instantly, your frustration skyrockets. Your first instinct is to honk the horn, shout, or let the anger take hold. But in that moment, you have a choice. You can choose to react with anger, or you can choose to breathe and let it go. You can acknowledge the emotion and let it pass without letting it ruin your day. This doesn't mean you suppress your emotions. It means you recognize them for what they are, temporary feelings that don't need to control your behavior. Anger, frustration, and irritation are natural, but when you respond with calmness and composure, you regain control of the situation. Instead of allowing your emotions to dictate your actions, you take charge. This ability to choose how to respond is what sets emotionally intelligent people apart. It's what allows them to stay calm under pressure, make thoughtful decisions, and build stronger relationships. When you can control your reactions, you stop being a victim of your emotions and start becoming the master of them. Let's take a look at a real-world example. Think about a time when you've been in an argument with someone, a friend, a colleague, or even a family member. Maybe the conversation started out fine, but somewhere along the way, things escalated. Your emotions kicked in, and before long, you were both shouting, saying things you didn't mean. This is a classic example of reactionary behavior. You were both caught up in the emotion of the moment, and your reactions fueled the fire. But what if you had paused before reacting? What if instead of firing back with your own angry response, you took a breath and listened, really listened to what the other person was saying? By creating space between your emotion and your response, you might have been able to diffuse the situation, or at least respond in a way that was more productive. This isn't just theory. It's something that can be practiced and honed over time. Every time you feel that emotional charge, you have an opportunity to make a choice. It's like building a muscle. The more you practice pausing and choosing your response, the stronger your emotional control becomes. So, how do you start? The first step is to become aware of your emotional triggers. What situations tend to set you off? What people or circumstances make you feel angry, anxious, or frustrated? Once you know what triggers your emotional responses, you can begin to prepare for them. When you're in a stressful situation, remind yourself that you have a choice. You don't have to react right away. You can take a breath, step back, and decide how to respond in a way that serves you. It won't always be easy, but with time and practice, it will become second nature. And as you begin to master your emotional responses, you'll notice something incredible happening. Your relationships will improve, your stress levels will decrease, and you'll find that you have more peace and clarity in your life. Remember, emotions will always be a part of you. They'll rise and fall, ebb and flow. But how you respond to them, that's where the magic happens. By consciously choosing your reactions, you take back control of your emotional state and life. And in that choice lies true power, the power to live with more calm, more intention, and more freedom. So the next time you feel your emotions rising, remember this: emotion or reaction, the choice is yours. And in that choice you have the power to transform your life. Chapter 2. Master your mind. Master your emotions. Mastering your emotions begins in the most powerful place, your mind. It's the quiet but potent engine that drives your emotional responses. The mind is a master of habits, patterns, and perceptions, and if you learn to harness it, you will begin to realize that controlling your emotions isn't as difficult as it might seem. What many people fail to realize is that emotions are often just reactions to the thoughts we entertain in our minds. The truth is, you have the power to influence your emotions, not by fighting them, but by changing the way you think. In fact, the key to mastering your emotions lies in mastering your mind. When you can control your thoughts, your emotional state will follow suit. Think about the last time you were caught in a negative emotional spiral. Maybe it was frustration over a work deadline, or maybe it was anger that flared up after an uncomfortable conversation. In that moment, did you notice the thoughts that accompanied those emotions? Chances are, those thoughts were not neutral. They were negative, often exaggerated, and self-defeating. When your mind is clouded with negative thoughts, your emotions will mirror that negativity. The mind and emotions are like two dancing partners, constantly influencing each other. But here's the exciting part: you can change the dance. Imagine this: every time you feel anxiety creeping in or anger beginning to rise, you have a choice. You can let your thoughts fuel that emotional fire, or you can step back and redirect your mind. The latter is not only possible, but it's the key to emotional freedom. When you master your thoughts, you master your emotions. You become the observer rather than the participant in your emotional drama. Instead of reacting to a stressful situation, you can choose to respond from a place of calm and clarity. The first step in mastering your mind is to recognize the power of your thoughts. Your thoughts are not you. They are simply mental events that arise, and just like clouds in the sky, they can pass by if you don't attach to them. This is where most people go wrong. They believe that their thoughts are reality. But your thoughts are just mental constructs, and they don't have to define how you feel. When you can detach from your thoughts, you begin to realize that you don't have to react to every single one. Not every thought deserves your attention, and certainly not every thought deserves to control your emotional state. One of the most powerful techniques to begin mastering your mind is to become a conscious observer of your thoughts. Whenever you feel an emotion rising, pause for a moment and notice the thoughts that triggered it. This simple act of awareness creates space between you and the emotion. You start to see the patterns that lead to emotional reactions, and you gain the power to change them. For example, let's say you're feeling stressed about an upcoming meeting. Your mind may start telling you that you're unprepared, that something will go wrong, or that you won't be able to handle the pressure. These thoughts, if left unchecked, will intensify your stress. But if you stop and observe those thoughts without judgment, you can change the narrative. You can acknowledge the anxiety, but you don't have to let it control you. You can choose to reframe your thoughts. I've prepared as best I can. I can handle this. I'll take things one step at a time. The second part of mastering your mind involves training it to think more positively. Now, I know what you're probably thinking. It's not always that easy. How can I just change my thoughts when my mind is filled with negativity? The truth is, changing the way you think requires practice and intention, but it's entirely possible. It's not about pretending that everything is perfect or ignoring your challenges. It's about shifting your focus. You can train your mind to look for opportunities, to reframe problems as challenges to be overcome, and to find gratitude even in the most difficult moments. One simple but powerful way to shift your mindset is by practicing affirmations. Now, I know what some of you may be thinking. Affirmations sound a little woo-woo or unrealistic, but bear with me for a second. Affirmations are simply statements that help you rewire your brain, shifting it from negative thought patterns to more constructive ones. Instead of allowing your mind to default to worry or fear, you intentionally choose thoughts that empower you. For example, instead of thinking, "I'm not good enough to handle this," you can affirm, "I am capable and confident. I trust myself to handle whatever comes my way." Over time, these affirmations will begin to reshape your subconscious beliefs and shift your emotional responses. Another powerful tool to mastering your mind is mindfulness. When you are fully present in the moment, your thoughts and emotions no longer have the power to drag you around. Mindfulness allows you to observe your thoughts and feelings without getting entangled in them. You can simply acknowledge, there's that anxious thought again, and let it go. The key is in the non-attachment. By practicing mindfulness, you can create a sense of emotional stability, no matter what life throws your way. Now let's talk about action. While thoughts and emotions are deeply interconnected, your actions also play a massive role in how you feel. If you're constantly thinking negative thoughts and reacting emotionally, you'll find yourself trapped in a cycle of emotional instability. But when you take intentional action based on positive thinking, you create momentum. Action serves as a bridge between your thoughts and emotions. When you act with purpose and confidence, your emotions begin to align with that energy. For example, if you're feeling anxious about a big project, don't just sit there and stew in your thoughts. Take action. Break the project down into smaller, manageable steps. Take one small step forward, even if it's just drafting a simple outline or brainstorming ideas. Action creates clarity, and clarity creates confidence. The more you move forward, the more control you have over your emotional state. It's important to understand that mastering your mind is a lifelong journey. It's not about achieving perfection, it's about progress. The goal is to become more aware of your thoughts and more deliberate in how you respond to them. Over time, this practice will lead to greater emotional stability, resilience, and clarity. The more you exercise your ability to choose your thoughts and actions, the more you will see the fruits of emotional mastery in every area of your life. So, as you continue on this path, remember that the key to controlling your emotions is in controlling your mind. Your thoughts shape your feelings, and your feelings shape your reality. If you want to change your emotional life, you must first change the way you think. The power to do this lies within you. It's in your ability to choose your thoughts, to act with intention, and to train your mind to look for the positive, the hopeful, and the empowering. And when you do this, you will discover a profound sense of inner peace and emotional freedom that will allow you to navigate the world with confidence, resilience, and unwavering clarity. Chapter 3. Feelings aren't facts. Letting go of emotional cling. Every single emotion we feel, no matter how intense or fleeting, comes from our thoughts. It might sound overly simple, but it's the truth that we tend to overlook. Our feelings don't exist in a vacuum. They're not random or uncontrollable forces. They're directly tied to the stories we tell ourselves and the interpretations we make about our circumstances. The more aware we become of this, the more power we have over our emotional lives. The secret to mastering your emotions lies in realizing this simple fact: feelings are not facts. They're reactions to the thoughts and perceptions we choose to entertain. Think back to a time when you were overwhelmed with negative emotions. Maybe it was anxiety before a big event or frustration in the middle of an argument. In that moment it felt real, didn't it? It felt as though your emotions were completely justified by what was happening around you. But here's the powerful thing about emotions: they can be shifted if we change the narrative we create about a situation. Instead of letting your feelings define your reality, you can choose to reframe the story. Instead of believing that your anxiety means something is wrong, or that frustration is a sign of failure, you can choose to see those emotions as signals, not truths. And from that place you have the power to shift your response. Emotions are powerful. They grab hold of us and often dictate how we react to the world. But what we don't realize is that we have a choice. We can respond, not just react. The key to unlocking this freedom is understanding that feelings are not objective truths about the world around us, but rather subjective interpretations of the world we see. The more you understand this, the more you can begin to loosen the grip emotions have on you. You can start to recognize that your emotional reactions are not always logical or necessary, and that you can change them if you choose to. This doesn't mean ignoring your emotions or pretending that they don't matter. Emotions are real experiences, and they deserve to be acknowledged. What I'm suggesting is that you no longer allow them to be the driving force of your life. When you realize that emotions are reactions to your thoughts, you start to see that you have the ability to control your emotional responses by controlling your thinking patterns. It's about learning to detach from your emotions long enough to observe them, understand them, and then choose a more empowered response. To illustrate this, think about how you feel when you wake up in the morning. If you wake up feeling tense or anxious, it's usually because of a thought that's in your mind. Maybe you're worried about something you need to do later, or perhaps your mind is replaying something from the past that still triggers discomfort. The moment you let those thoughts take over, they give birth to emotions, anxiety, stress, even dread. But what if you didn't let those thoughts control you? What if, instead of allowing them to determine how your day would go, you could step back and choose a new perspective? You could choose gratitude or confidence or curiosity. By doing so, you're not denying the reality of your emotions, but rather you're making a conscious decision to shift your focus. This is where the magic happens. When you realize that your emotions are not facts, but rather temporary states that are shaped by your thoughts, you take back your power. Instead of reacting to everything that happens around you, you learn to respond thoughtfully. You begin to see that your emotional reactions don't have to define you. They don't have to shape your day or your interactions with others. The more you practice this, the more your emotional resilience will grow, and the more control you'll feel over your inner world. A powerful technique for cultivating emotional awareness is mindfulness. Mindfulness is simply the practice of being present in the moment, fully aware of your thoughts and feelings without judgment. When you practice mindfulness, you start to notice the thoughts that give birth to certain emotions. You start to see that your thoughts often carry a lot of weight, and that by changing them, you can change how you feel. Mindfulness helps you separate yourself from your emotions so that you don't get swallowed up by them. It teaches you that while emotions are a natural part of being human, they don't need to control you. This is where the concept of emotional detachment comes into play. Detachment doesn't mean becoming cold or indifferent to your feelings. Rather, it's about observing your emotions from a distance without getting caught up in them. It's about recognizing that emotions are like clouds. They come and go, and you don't have to hold on to every single one. By practicing detachment, you can acknowledge your emotions without letting them rule you. You can feel them, but you don't have to react to them. You can say, "I'm feeling anxious right now, but that doesn't mean I have to act on it." By learning to detach, you create a space between the emotion and your reaction, and that space is where true power lies. Another way to manage emotions is by questioning their validity. It's easy to believe that our feelings are based on facts, but that's not always the case. For example, when you're feeling upset about something someone said, you might believe that their words are the source of your distress. But is that really true? Or is it possible that your interpretation of their words is causing the emotional reaction? When you learn to question your emotional responses and the stories you tell yourself about a situation, you gain greater clarity. Instead of jumping to conclusions or allowing your emotions to cloud your judgment, you start to look at things with a more objective lens. This practice of questioning helps you create emotional distance, allowing you to take a step back and choose a more rational response. It's important to note that emotional mastery doesn't happen overnight. It's a practice, a skill that you develop over time. The more you practice observing your emotions without judgment, the easier it becomes to recognize when your thoughts are creating emotional turmoil. As you become more aware of this process, you gain the ability to step in before your emotions take over. You begin to realize that your emotions are not a reflection of your true self. They are simply temporary states that come and go. And by detaching from them, you gain the ability to choose how you respond, no matter what life throws your way. The power of realizing that feelings are not facts is in the freedom it gives you. When you stop taking your emotions so seriously, you stop allowing them to dictate your behavior. You start to make decisions from a place of clarity and calm, rather than from emotional turmoil. This shift allows you to take control of your emotional life and direct it toward peace, joy, and resilience. You no longer have to live in reaction to the world around you. Instead, you can choose to respond in a way that reflects your values, your goals, and your higher self. As you continue on your journey of emotional mastery, remember that your emotions are not who you are. They are simply part of the human experience. They come and go, and you have the power to shape how they affect your life. By learning to recognize the difference between your feelings and the truth, you free yourself from the cycle of emotional reactivity. You become the master of your emotions, and with that mastery comes a profound sense of inner peace and emotional freedom. Chapter 4. The Power of Emotional Awareness. Know thyself. Every moment in life, when you realize that emotions are not just passing feelings, they can be tools, signals, and even guides if you learn how to tune into them. The first step in taking control of your emotions is becoming more aware of them, understanding them at a deeper level. This awareness doesn't just mean knowing when you're angry, sad, or happy. It means truly understanding what's behind those emotions, where they come from, and why they show up in certain moments. Once you start to notice your emotional patterns and triggers, you unlock the door to emotional intelligence, a powerful skill that allows you to make conscious choices rather than simply reacting to every emotional wave that comes your way. At the core of emotional awareness is the ability to observe yourself without judgment. It's the practice of sitting with your emotions, allowing them to exist without trying to push them away or make them go away. Think about it. How often do you rush to escape uncomfortable emotions? Maybe you try to numb them with distractions, food, alcohol, or even mindlessly scrolling through your phone. But the reality is, running away from emotions only gives them more power over you. You avoid them, but they don't go away. They resurface in other ways, often when you least expect it, and the cycle continues, reinforcing the idea that emotions are something to fear or avoid, when in fact, they are just part of the human experience. Emotional awareness allows you to stop fearing your emotions and instead develop a healthy relationship with them. When you become aware of what you're feeling in any given moment, you can choose how to respond. You can decide whether to allow your feelings to control you or whether to take a step back and examine the situation. That's the beauty of emotional awareness. It gives you the space to pause, reflect, and respond thoughtfully instead of automatically reacting out of habit. When you can stop, breathe, and reflect on what's going on inside you, you begin to understand that emotions are not the enemy. They're simply signals, messages from your inner self about what's happening in your world. One of the most important tools for cultivating emotional awareness is mindfulness. Mindfulness is the practice of being fully present in the moment, without judgment or distraction. It means observing your thoughts, emotions, and physical sensations as they arise, without getting caught up in them or identifying with them. When you're mindful, you're not labeling your emotions as good or bad. You're simply acknowledging them and observing their presence. It's about being with yourself in the moment, without trying to change anything. This practice helps you step out of the constant mental chatter and emotional reactivity that can sometimes dominate your life. Mindfulness doesn't just mean sitting in silence and meditating. It can be woven into every aspect of your life, from how you respond to a stressful situation to how you engage in conversations with others. The key is to slow down enough to notice what's happening within you without judgment. When you feel anger rising, for example, you don't have to lash out immediately. Instead, you can pause and ask yourself, what's really going on here? What am I feeling beneath the anger? This pause, this moment of awareness, gives you the opportunity to process your emotions consciously rather than reacting blindly. You might realize that the anger is masking hurt or fear, and from there you can choose a healthier response. Another aspect of emotional awareness is learning to recognize your emotional triggers. These are the situations, people, or thoughts that provoke intense emotional reactions in you. It might be something as simple as a comment from a colleague that makes you feel inadequate, or a situation that causes you to feel overwhelmed. Once you begin to recognize these triggers, you gain an immense amount of power. Instead of blindly reacting, you can anticipate these situations and choose how to respond. For example, if you know that a certain conversation with a family member tends to make you anxious, you can prepare yourself mentally beforehand. You can practice calming techniques, remind yourself of your boundaries, or even decide that you don't have to engage in a particular way. This level of awareness allows you to take control of your emotional responses before they take control of you. Becoming emotionally aware also means acknowledging that you are responsible for your own emotional well-being. This can be a tough pill to swallow, especially when we tend to blame others for how we feel. It's easy to think that someone else's actions, words, or behaviors are the reason we feel a certain way. But in truth, no one else can make us feel anything without our consent. Our emotions are a direct result of how we interpret and respond to the world around us. When we take ownership of our emotional state, we realize that we hold the power to change how we feel, regardless of external circumstances. This responsibility for our emotions doesn't mean that we suppress them or pretend that everything is okay when it's not. It means that we take charge of how we process and deal with our feelings. It's about acknowledging that emotions are not the problem, they're a natural part of life. The problem comes when we let those emotions run wild and dictate our actions. Emotional awareness gives us the ability to navigate our emotional landscape with clarity, so we can choose how to engage with the world. Part of becoming more emotionally aware is also developing emotional resilience, the ability to bounce back from challenges, setbacks, and adversity. Resilience is not about avoiding negative emotions, it's about learning how to recover from them and keep moving forward. Life will throw curveballs at you, and you will experience moments of frustration, sadness, and disappointment. But emotional awareness helps you recognize that these moments don't define you, they're just part of the ebb and flow of life. When you're emotionally aware, you can process those emotions, learn from them, and move on without letting them control your trajectory. A big part of emotional resilience is learning how to navigate difficult emotions without letting them derail you. When you encounter a setback, for example, you might initially feel frustrated or disheartened, but instead of getting stuck in that feeling, emotional awareness allows you to notice it, acknowledge it, and then let it go. You can shift your focus to the next steps, the actions you need to take to move forward. This doesn't mean ignoring your feelings, it means recognizing that emotions are temporary and that you have the strength to keep moving toward your goals, no matter what. Emotional awareness also helps you cultivate empathy for others. When you're in touch with your own emotions, it becomes easier to understand and empathize with the feelings of those around you. You can put yourself in their shoes, recognize their emotional experiences, and respond in a compassionate and understanding way. This ability to connect with others on an emotional level creates deeper, more meaningful relationships and fosters a sense of community and support. As you deepen your emotional awareness, you start to experience a profound shift in how you see the world. You begin to realize that your emotions don't control you, you control them. You start to see emotions as a tool, a guide, rather than something to fear or avoid. With this awareness, you gain the power to navigate life with grace and clarity, no matter what challenges come your way. Your emotional state becomes something that works for you, not against you. And as you continue to grow in your emotional awareness, you'll find that the more in tune you are with yourself, the more at peace you feel. This is the path to emotional freedom, and it's a path you can start walking right now. Chapter 5. Transforming Pain into Power. There are moments in life that test our limits, moments where the weight of pain seems unbearable. But what if I told you that within that very pain, there's a hidden strength? What if I told you that instead of running from it, you could use it as fuel to propel yourself forward, to grow stronger, wiser, and more resilient? Pain, in its rawest form, is not something to be feared. It's a force of nature, a part of the human experience that everyone faces at some point. But the way we respond to that pain, how we process it, and whether we allow it to define us or empower us, that's where our true power lies. Too often, we treat pain like an enemy, something to be avoided at all costs. We resist it, push it away, and hope it will disappear. We numb it with distractions or pretend it doesn't exist. But when we approach pain this way, we only give it more power over us. It lingers, festers, and eventually it finds its way to the surface in ways that hurt us even more. Instead of avoiding it, we need to learn how to transform it, how to turn our suffering into strength. The key to transforming pain into power lies in perspective. When we shift our perspective, we shift our relationship to the pain. Instead of seeing it as a burden, we can view it as a teacher, an opportunity for growth. The truth is, pain is often the most powerful catalyst for change in our lives. It's the force that drives us to reevaluate who we are, what we stand for, and what we truly want out of life. Without pain, we might never question our habits, our beliefs, or our choices. Without pain, we might never push ourselves beyond our comfort zones or discover our inner strength. It's important to understand that transforming pain doesn't mean erasing it or pretending it never existed. Pain is real, and it serves a purpose. What we're talking about here is the ability to process that pain, to sit with it, learn from it, and ultimately use it to grow stronger. You see, when we experience pain, it often forces us to confront the parts of ourselves that we've been avoiding, the wounds that we've buried deep down. But by facing these wounds head-on, we create an opportunity for healing, for self-discovery, and for transformation. One powerful way to begin this process is through mindfulness. Mindfulness allows us to stay present with our emotions, especially the difficult ones. When you're in pain, it's easy to get lost in your thoughts and emotions, to spiral into negativity or despair. Mindfulness helps you break that cycle by teaching you to observe your pain without judgment. It helps you recognize that pain is not who you are, it's just something you're experiencing. By detaching yourself from the emotional charge, you create space to process and understand what's happening within you. Imagine for a moment that you're facing a difficult situation. Maybe you've experienced a setback, or you're grieving a loss, or you're just feeling overwhelmed by life. It's natural to feel hurt, frustrated, or angry. But in these moments, mindfulness allows you to pause and breathe. Instead of reacting immediately, you can observe your feelings and ask yourself, what's happening inside me right now? Why am I feeling this way? By creating this space, you avoid getting caught in the emotional storm. Instead, you take control of your response and start to shift your energy. Another critical element in transforming pain into power is reframing. Reframing is the practice of looking at a situation from a different angle, finding the positive aspects even in the most challenging circumstances. It's easy to get stuck in a negative loop when we're in pain, but reframing allows us to break free from that cycle. It's about asking yourself, what can I learn from this? How can this experience make me stronger? When you reframe your pain in this way, you start to see it not as something that's happening to you, but as something that's happening for you. Pain becomes an opportunity for growth, for building resilience, and for developing a deeper understanding of yourself and your life. This shift in perspective doesn't mean that the pain magically disappears. It doesn't mean that you won't have moments of grief, sadness, or frustration. What it means is that you now have the tools to handle your pain in a way that empowers you. Instead of letting pain define your life, you begin to define how you respond to pain. You choose to use it as a stepping stone rather than an obstacle. In order to transform pain into power, it's also essential to practice self-compassion. Too often, when we're in pain, we become our own worst critics. We beat ourselves up, telling ourselves that we should be stronger, that we shouldn't feel the way we do. But this inner criticism only adds to our suffering. Self-compassion, on the other hand, is the practice of treating yourself with the same kindness and understanding that you would offer a friend in a similar situation. It's about recognizing that it's okay to feel pain, that it's okay to struggle, and that you deserve love and care, especially in the most difficult moments. When you practice self-compassion, you give yourself permission to feel your emotions without judgment. You stop blaming yourself for your pain, and instead, you embrace it as part of the human experience. Self-compassion helps you heal from the inside out, and it provides the foundation for transforming pain into power. Instead of seeing yourself as weak or broken, you begin to see yourself as resilient, capable, and worthy of healing. Another key to transforming pain into power is finding meaning in your experiences. When we go through painful moments, it's easy to feel like our lives are being shattered. But pain doesn't have to be meaningless. Every struggle, every challenge carries with it the potential for growth. It might be hard to see in the moment, but looking back, you will often realize that the most painful experiences taught you some of the most valuable lessons. They showed you who you really are, what you're capable of, and what truly matters to you. The next time you're facing a difficult moment, ask yourself, what's the lesson in this? What can I take from this experience that will make me a better person? This mindset shift will help you navigate pain with a sense of purpose. Instead of feeling like you're just surviving the pain, you'll start to feel like you're learning, evolving, and becoming stronger as a result of it. And finally, transforming pain into power requires patience. Healing takes time, and there's no quick fix. It's a journey, not a destination. But every step you take toward understanding your pain, reframing it, practicing self-compassion, and finding meaning in it, brings you closer to the person you are meant to be. With each experience, you grow, and with each challenge, you become stronger, more resilient, and more capable of handling whatever life throws your way. Pain will come, that much is certain. But it doesn't have to break you. It doesn't have to defeat you. When you choose to transform your pain into power, you discover a depth of strength within you that you never knew existed. You become unstoppable, not because you are immune to pain, but because you have learned how to rise above it. And that, my friend, is true power. Chapter 6. The Emotional Reset. Building instant calm. In the rush of everyday life, it's easy to lose sight of the stillness that can give you the peace and clarity you need. The world constantly pushes, pulls, and demands more from us. But it's in the moments of calm that you truly find your power. It's not about avoiding life's challenges, but about learning how to reset your emotional state, to take a breath, and remember who you are at your core. Building instant calm is like creating a sanctuary within yourself, a place where you can always go to regain balance, to reconnect with your inner strength, and to handle life's ups and downs with grace. When everything around you feels chaotic, the ability to reset emotionally becomes your most powerful tool. It's a practice that empowers you to take control of your emotions instead of letting them control you. Whether you're facing an overwhelming situation, dealing with a stressful relationship, or simply feeling the weight of the world on your shoulders, building the ability to find calm in those moments is essential. And the best part is, you don't have to wait for life to slow down. You can create that sense of peace within you, anytime, anywhere. The first step to building instant calm is recognizing that you have the power to change your emotional state. Emotions are not permanent. They come and go like waves in the ocean. It's easy to get caught in the tide, but if you can learn to step back, to observe the waves without being swept away by them, you gain control. You realize that your emotions are not who you are. They are simply experiences you are having. And when you detach yourself from the emotional charge, you allow yourself the space to reset, to breathe, and to choose how you want to respond. One of the most effective ways to begin this process is through deep breathing. It sounds simple, almost too simple, but the power of the breath is unmatched. When you're feeling overwhelmed, anxious, or upset, your breath often becomes shallow and rapid. By consciously slowing your breath, you immediately send a signal to your nervous system that it's time to relax. Deep breathing activates the parasympathetic nervous system, which helps calm your body and mind. This is why taking a few moments to breathe deeply can completely change the way you feel. It's not just about breathing for the sake of it. It's about breathing with intention. You can do this by focusing on your breath and guiding it into a slow, deliberate rhythm. Inhale deeply through your nose, hold for a moment, and then exhale slowly through your mouth. As you do this, visualize the stress leaving your body with every exhale. Picture the calmness flowing in with every inhale. This simple technique can bring your mind back into focus, release tension, and reset your emotional state in a matter of minutes. Another powerful tool for emotional resetting is the power of visualization. In moments of stress, your mind can feel cluttered with worries and anxieties. But by using visualization, you can direct your focus away from the chaos and toward a place of peace. Picture a serene scene, perhaps a quiet beach, a calm forest, or a beautiful mountain view. Imagine the soothing sounds of nature, the gentle breeze, the warmth of the sun. Allow yourself to immerse in this peaceful imagery, as if you are truly there. This process engages your mind and body in a way that helps to reduce stress, calm your emotions, and bring you back to a grounded state. It's important to remember that building instant calm is not about suppressing or ignoring your emotions. It's about learning to navigate them with awareness. Often we think that in order to feel better, we have to push away negative emotions, but this only leads to deeper frustration and emotional buildup. True emotional mastery is about acknowledging what you're feeling without judgment and then choosing how to respond. When you can sit with your emotions, understand them, and then gently shift your focus to a place of calm, you regain control. You stop being at the mercy of your emotions, and instead, you become the one who guides them. You may find that in some moments, the emotions you're feeling are so intense that even deep breathing and visualization don't seem to help right away. In these situations, it's important to give yourself permission to take a step back. You don't have to fix everything instantly. Sometimes, simply taking a break and allowing yourself the time to process is enough. Recognize that it's okay to not have all the answers or solutions in the moment. This is part of resetting, to stop forcing yourself to react and instead create space to just be. The beauty of learning to reset emotionally is that it doesn't require external circumstances to change. You don't need to wait for a quieter environment, fewer responsibilities, or a more peaceful situation. The power to reset is within you. It's a skill you can develop, one that gives you the ability to handle anything life throws your way with poise and resilience. When you can access this calm in an instant, you can navigate stressful situations with greater ease, make better decisions, and even improve your relationships. But building this ability to reset isn't just about moments of crisis. It's also about making emotional resets a part of your daily routine. Just like you might work out your body to keep it strong, you must practice resetting your emotions to keep them in balance. Start your day with a moment of stillness. Before you dive into the chaos of your responsibilities, take 5 minutes to center yourself. Close your eyes, breathe deeply, and visualize a calm, peaceful place. This practice sets the tone for your entire day and helps you start from a place of inner peace. Throughout the day, take breaks as needed. It's easy to get caught up in the hustle, but constant pressure can wear down your emotional state. Whenever you feel tension building, take a moment to reset. Go for a walk, stretch, close your eyes for a few seconds, or use a quick breathing technique. These small acts of self-care allow you to stay emotionally balanced, so you can respond with clarity and focus instead of reacting impulsively. One of the most transformative aspects of building instant calm is that it helps you cultivate a deeper sense of self-awareness. When you're able to pause, breathe, and reset, you become more attuned to your own needs and emotional state. You begin to notice when you're feeling overwhelmed, stressed, or off balance, and you recognize the importance of giving yourself a moment of peace. This awareness allows you to make more mindful choices in all aspects of your life, whether it's how you respond to difficult situations, how you interact with others, or how you care for yourself. The beauty of learning to reset emotionally is that it not only helps you in moments of stress, but it also strengthens your ability to stay centered in all aspects of your life. You begin to build a resilience that comes from knowing that no matter what happens, you have the tools to return to a place of peace. In doing so, you become more than just someone who reacts to life's challenges. You become someone who faces them with composure, clarity, and confidence. Building instant calm isn't about achieving perfection. It's about developing the ability to return to peace, even when life feels out of control. It's about recognizing that your emotions are not your enemies. They're simply signals pointing you toward what needs attention. By learning to reset emotionally, you gain the power to steer your life with purpose, no matter the storm. And that's a power that stays with you for life. Chapter 7. Empathy as your superpower. Empathy is a gift we all have within us, but it's one that we often overlook, especially when we're consumed by our own emotions. When you tap into your ability to empathize, you unlock the most powerful tool for transforming your emotional world and your relationships. It's more than just understanding someone else's feelings. It's about truly connecting, not just with others but also with yourself. Empathy allows you to step outside of your emotional reactions and see the bigger picture, offering clarity in situations where your emotions may otherwise cloud your judgment. It's not about sacrificing your own needs or losing yourself in the process. Instead, it's about realizing that by caring deeply for others, you enrich your own emotional well-being, fostering growth, understanding, and peace within yourself. Imagine this: you're caught in a difficult conversation, and emotions are running high. You feel anger rising within you, or perhaps frustration or hurt. It's easy to react in those moments, to let your emotions take control, to say things you don't mean, or to shut down completely. But what if, instead of reacting, you paused for a moment and put yourself in the other person's shoes? What if, in that exact moment, you chose to see things from their perspective, to understand their pain or their point of view? This shift can be incredibly transformative, not just for the other person, but for your own emotional state as well. The power of empathy lies in its ability to dissolve barriers between people. When you empathize, you're no longer standing on opposite sides of an emotional divide. You're in the same space, feeling what the other person is feeling, connecting on a human level. This connection does not require you to agree with everything they're saying or doing. It's not about excusing bad behavior or putting yourself in a situation that harms you. Instead, empathy is about honoring the emotional experience of another person, validating their feelings, and offering understanding without judgment. It's about listening without the urge to fix, simply being present with someone, allowing them the space to feel heard and seen. This skill is incredibly powerful in moments of conflict. When we are upset, we often feel isolated, as though no one can understand us. Yet when someone takes the time to truly listen, to acknowledge our emotions without rushing to provide solutions, it creates a sense of connection and trust. It's in these moments that empathy shines brightest. It doesn't matter if you've never experienced exactly what the other person is going through. You can still empathize by recognizing their pain, by offering your presence, by validating their experience. And in doing so, you create a deeper connection that transcends surface-level interactions. Empathy is also a doorway to self-awareness. By learning to tune into the emotions of others, you simultaneously become more attuned to your own feelings. You begin to notice patterns in your emotional responses, recognizing when you are being triggered by something external or when your own unresolved issues are influencing how you react. As you practice empathy, you become more aware of your own emotional landscape. You learn to identify the root of your feelings, whether they are a reflection of your personal struggles or a reaction to the behavior of others. This self-awareness allows you to take control of your emotional state and move toward healing. Empathy also requires a shift in perspective, and this can be incredibly liberating. It allows you to step away from the small, often limiting view of your own experience and see life through a wider lens. When you can look beyond your own emotional reactions and understand the struggles or joys of others, you expand your capacity for love, patience, and compassion. This is a powerful tool when it comes to emotional mastery. It allows you to move through life with a deeper sense of peace, knowing that you are not isolated in your emotions, but part of a larger, interconnected whole. The practice of empathy doesn't just apply to interactions with others, it also extends to how we treat ourselves. Too often, we are our own harshest critics, unable to show ourselves the same compassion we readily give to others. Empathy is just as much about offering kindness and understanding to yourself as it is about extending it to others. In moments of self-doubt, when you're feeling down or overwhelmed, the same principles apply. Instead of berating yourself for not being perfect or for feeling emotional, practice self-empathy. Acknowledge your own feelings without judgment and offer yourself the same support and compassion that you would give to a friend in need. When you treat yourself with the same empathy, you create an emotional environment that fosters growth, healing, and acceptance. This practice also has profound effects on your overall well-being. Empathy allows you to build stronger, more meaningful relationships. It cultivates a sense of trust and connection with others, as people are drawn to those who can listen, understand, and validate their feelings. When you offer empathy, you are in a sense offering emotional safety, creating a space where people feel comfortable being vulnerable and open with you. This emotional safety is the foundation of healthy relationships, whether they are romantic, familial, or professional. It fosters a sense of community and belonging, essential components for emotional well-being. Empathy also encourages you to be more present in your interactions. It teaches you to listen without judgment or distraction, to truly hear what someone is saying beneath the surface. In today's fast-paced world, it's easy to get caught up in our own thoughts, constantly thinking about what we're going to say next, or worrying about what others think of us. But when you practice empathy, you become a better listener. You quiet your mind, put aside your own concerns, and fully engage with the other person's emotional world. This is a gift, both for the person you are interacting with and for yourself. It helps you develop deeper emotional connections and become more attuned to the needs of those around you. It's also worth noting that empathy isn't always easy. There are times when we don't want to empathize because it feels uncomfortable or because we don't understand the other person's perspective. There are moments when it's easier to shut down, to distance ourselves, or to criticize. But the true power of empathy lies in its ability to transform these moments. When you choose to empathize in difficult situations, you grow emotionally. You stretch beyond your comfort zone and challenge yourself to see things differently. It's in these challenging moments that empathy holds the greatest potential for growth. Ultimately, empathy is a superpower that resides within all of us, waiting to be activated. It is the key to building emotional mastery, fostering deeper connections, and living with greater emotional awareness. It shifts the focus away from reaction and toward understanding. It teaches you to listen deeply, to step into the shoes of others, and to recognize that everyone, including yourself, is navigating their own emotional journey. When you embrace empathy, you unlock a life filled with richer relationships, deeper connections, and a greater understanding of both yourself and the world around you. And in this understanding, you find a profound sense of peace and emotional freedom that empowers you to live your life fully. Chapter 8. Rewriting your emotional story. We all have stories we tell ourselves. Stories about who we are, what we can achieve, and what we deserve. But what happens when these stories don't serve us? What if the narrative we've created around our emotions, our challenges, and even our past has been holding us back from true emotional freedom? Rewriting your emotional story isn't just about changing the words you use. It's about changing the very framework through which you view yourself and the world. It's about reclaiming your power and taking control of the way you react to situations, how you feel about yourself, and how you approach life moving forward. Imagine the profound impact that would have on your emotions if you could tell a new story, one that empowers you instead of limiting you. The truth is, the stories we tell ourselves shape everything. They dictate how we respond to challenges, how we deal with failure, and even how we approach success. If your internal narrative is steeped in fear, doubt, and self-criticism, it's no wonder that you feel overwhelmed, stressed, and emotionally drained. On the other hand, if your story is filled with resilience, hope, and the belief that you can overcome anything, then your emotional state shifts as well. When you change your story, you change your reality. Let's break this down further. Every person carries with them a story about who they are. Maybe you were raised in an environment where you learned to suppress your feelings, or learned that certain emotions were wrong. Perhaps you were taught that showing vulnerability made you weak, or that success could only come from perfection. These stories, often built in our early years, have a profound impact on how we navigate the world and how we react emotionally. But what if those stories were based on limiting beliefs? What if the things you learned weren't true after all? What if there's a different version of your story waiting to be written, one where you embrace your emotions, where vulnerability is a strength, and where setbacks are simply opportunities for growth? Rewriting your emotional story means challenging those old narratives. It means stepping back and assessing the beliefs and patterns you've accumulated over time, and deciding if they align with the person you want to be. You have the power to rewrite your story at any moment, regardless of what's happened in the past. The past is just that. The past. It doesn't define you. The present moment, however, is where your power lies. The present is where you can decide who you want to be, what you want to feel, and how you want to move forward. To start rewriting your emotional story, it's crucial to begin with self-awareness. You need to understand the story you've been telling yourself. When you react emotionally, what's the first thought that comes to mind? Is it one of defeat or resilience? Is it rooted in fear or in love? These first reactions are the echoes of the stories you've been living by. Pay attention to your thoughts and your emotional responses, because they're the breadcrumbs that will lead you back to the story you've been telling yourself. Once you've identified the old story, it's time to question it. Does it still serve you? Does it make you feel empowered, or does it keep you stuck in a cycle of negative emotion? Take a step back and examine the narrative from a distance. Is there another way to look at the situation? Can you view your past differently? Instead of seeing failure as a reflection of your worth, what if you saw it as a lesson, as a necessary part of growth? Instead of viewing your emotions as something to be avoided, what if you saw them as valuable guides, pointing the way toward a deeper understanding of yourself? As you begin to shift your perspective, you'll start to see the power in rewriting your emotional story. The beauty of this process is that it's not about erasing your past or pretending it didn't happen. It's about changing how you interpret it. It's about choosing to focus on the lessons, the growth, and the strength that came from those experiences, rather than getting stuck in the pain or regret. The key here is to reclaim your power. No longer let your past define you. Instead, let it fuel your journey forward, letting go of the old stories that kept you small and embracing new ones that propel you toward greater emotional mastery. One of the most profound ways to rewrite your emotional story is through the practice of self-compassion. When you're kind to yourself, you begin to break free from the harsh self-criticism that so often accompanies old emotional narratives. Instead of seeing yourself as flawed or broken, you see yourself as whole, deserving of love and understanding. This shift in self-perception has an immediate impact on your emotional well-being. When you embrace self-compassion, you're no longer at war with your emotions. You accept them, honor them, and use them as tools for growth rather than as obstacles to overcome. Another powerful tool for rewriting your emotional story is mindfulness. Mindfulness allows you to observe your thoughts and emotions without judgment. It helps you to detach from the old story you've been telling yourself and view it from a more objective perspective. By practicing mindfulness, you can become more aware of your emotional triggers, and instead of reacting automatically, you can choose how you want to respond. It gives you the space to decide how you want to feel in any given moment, rather than being at the mercy of your emotions. This is where the real power of emotional mastery lies, being able to recognize your feelings, sit with them, and choose your response, rather than letting them dictate your actions. It's also essential to let go of the need for perfection. One of the most common themes in the stories we tell ourselves is the belief that we have to be perfect in order to be worthy. This belief creates immense pressure and fosters feelings of inadequacy whenever we fall short of these unrealistic expectations. Rewriting your emotional story means releasing this need for perfection. It means accepting yourself as you are, with all your flaws, strengths, and imperfections. When you stop chasing perfection, you free yourself to be authentically you, and this authenticity brings peace, confidence, and emotional resilience. As you continue to rewrite your emotional story, it's important to remember that this is a process. It's not something that happens overnight. There will be moments when the old stories resurface, when doubt and fear creep back in. But the more you practice rewriting your story, the more natural it becomes. You begin to shift from seeing yourself as a victim of your circumstances to seeing yourself as the hero of your own story. This is where true emotional mastery lies, recognizing that no matter what life throws your way, you have the power to choose how you react, how you feel, and how you move forward. Rewriting your emotional story is one of the most empowering things you can do for yourself. It allows you to take control of your emotions, to stop being controlled by them, and to start living a life that reflects the true, resilient, and empowered version of yourself. It's about breaking free from the old patterns that have held you back and embracing a new narrative, one that aligns with your highest potential. When you rewrite your emotional story, you don't just change the words, you change your life. And with that change, you unlock the emotional freedom that comes from living with intention, purpose, and self-awareness. Chapter 9. Emotional Boundaries. Protecting your peace. In a world that's constantly shifting, with people and circumstances pushing us in every direction, it's easy to feel like we're constantly at the mercy of external forces. But what if I told you that you have the ability to maintain your calm and stay grounded, no matter what chaos or negativity is swirling around you? What if the key to emotional mastery lies in something as simple yet powerful as setting emotional boundaries? When you begin to understand the profound impact of setting these boundaries, you'll not only protect your peace, but also unlock a level of emotional resilience that empowers you to navigate even the toughest situations with grace. We often hear about physical boundaries, the ones we set with others when it comes to our personal space or our time. But emotional boundaries, these are just as important, if not more so. Emotional boundaries are the invisible lines that protect your mental and emotional well-being. They're the rules you set for yourself that determine what you're willing to accept emotionally from others and what you're not. It's about learning where to draw the line when it comes to other people's behavior and emotions, and more importantly, understanding that you have the right to preserve your emotional space. Think about a time when someone said something that hurt you or triggered an emotional response. Maybe it was a harsh comment, a judgment, or an inconsiderate action. In that moment, did you find yourself feeling overwhelmed, defensive, or even angry? It's easy to let those emotions take over, especially when you feel personally attacked or disrespected. But here's the truth: when we don't have emotional boundaries in place, we allow others to dictate how we feel. We give them the power to control our emotions, and before we know it, we're caught in a cycle of reacting rather than responding. This is where emotional boundaries become not just a strategy, but a life-changing tool. To set effective emotional boundaries, you first need to understand that it's not about shutting people out or being cold. It's about being clear with yourself about what you're willing to tolerate emotionally. It's about knowing what triggers you and having the strength to recognize those triggers before they hijack your emotions. For example, if someone is constantly belittling or undermining you, you don't have to engage with their negativity. You can recognize that their behavior is a reflection of them, not you, and choose to protect your emotional space by not letting their words take root in your mind. Setting emotional boundaries also means being honest with yourself about your emotional needs. What do you need in order to feel emotionally safe and secure? Maybe it's time to yourself when you're feeling overwhelmed, or maybe it's the ability to express your feelings without fear of judgment. Whatever it is, it's important to acknowledge those needs and honor them. When you fail to do so, you put yourself in a vulnerable position, and it's much easier for others to cross your emotional boundaries. This is why self-awareness is key. The more you know yourself, the more clearly you can communicate your needs and protect your emotional well-being. One of the biggest challenges when it comes to emotional boundaries is learning how to say no. It's easy to feel guilty when you set a limit with someone, especially if you're someone who prides yourself on being a people pleaser. But the reality is, saying no is one of the most powerful ways you can protect your peace. When you say no to something that doesn't serve your emotional well-being, whether it's an obligation that drains you, a toxic conversation, or a situation that feels uncomfortable, you're saying yes to yourself. You're honoring your needs, and in doing so you create the emotional space necessary for your own growth and peace of mind. Setting emotional boundaries also requires you to be proactive. It's not enough to simply react when someone crosses your line. You need to anticipate situations where your boundaries might be tested and prepare yourself to handle them in a healthy way. For instance, if you know you're about to have a difficult conversation with someone who tends to be critical or harsh, take a moment before the conversation to center yourself. Remind yourself that you have the right to protect your emotional space, and that you don't have to absorb any negativity that comes your way. When you take control of your emotional state in advance, you'll be able to navigate these conversations with more confidence and composure. It's important to remember that emotional boundaries are not just about protecting yourself from others, they're also about protecting yourself from your own negative thoughts and emotions. How often do you beat yourself up over mistakes, replay past failures, or criticize yourself for not being perfect? These internal emotional boundaries are just as essential. You must learn to set limits on the negative self-talk that keeps you stuck in a cycle of shame, guilt, or fear. Instead of allowing those thoughts to spiral out of control, you can create a boundary around them by redirecting your focus to something more positive, more empowering. By practicing self-compassion and self-awareness, you can create a healthy internal environment that supports your emotional well-being. One of the most empowering aspects of emotional boundaries is that they allow you to take back control of your life. They give you the ability to decide how you want to respond to situations, rather than reacting impulsively or out of fear. They help you break free from the emotional roller coaster that comes with constantly reacting to external circumstances. When you set boundaries, you step into your own power. You stop allowing external factors to dictate your emotional state, and instead you take full responsibility for how you choose to feel. This doesn't mean that life will always be smooth sailing, but it does mean that you can weather any storm with greater strength and resilience. Emotional boundaries also improve your relationships. When you set clear emotional boundaries, you're teaching others how to treat you. People will learn that you respect yourself and your emotional space, and they will be more likely to treat you with the same respect. In relationships, whether personal or professional, setting boundaries creates a sense of trust and mutual respect. It allows for healthier, more honest interactions because you're no longer allowing toxic behavior to slide under the radar. And when you respect your own boundaries, you attract people who respect them as well. But it's not always easy, is it? The fear of confrontation, the worry of upsetting others, the guilt of saying no, these emotions can all stand in the way of setting healthy emotional boundaries. But here's the thing. By not setting boundaries, you're allowing these fears to control you. When you don't protect your emotional well-being, you're sacrificing your peace for the sake of others, and ultimately that leaves you depleted, resentful, and emotionally drained. On the other hand, when you have the courage to set and enforce your boundaries, you give yourself the gift of emotional freedom. At the end of the day, protecting your peace is about reclaiming control over your emotions and your life. When you set emotional boundaries, you're not just preventing others from crossing your lines, you're also giving yourself permission to live authentically, to honor your feelings, and to create the emotional environment that fosters growth, happiness, and resilience. Remember, you're in charge of your emotional well-being, and it's up to you to create the boundaries that will keep you safe, strong, and at peace. It may feel uncomfortable at first, but with time, you'll come to realize that setting boundaries is one of the most loving things you can do for yourself. Chapter 10. The Emotional Mastery Habit: Keeping Your Power. Mastering your emotions is a lifelong journey, one that requires daily commitment and constant awareness. But here's the beautiful truth. You can shape your emotional responses, cultivate an unshakable calm, and thrive in the face of life's challenges, all by making the practice of emotional mastery a daily habit. Emotional mastery is not something you achieve once and for all. It's a continuous, ongoing practice that becomes a part of who you are, an integral tool that empowers you to stay grounded, no matter the chaos around you. The key to emotional mastery is consistency. The more you build the habit of emotional awareness and control, the stronger you become. It's in the small, seemingly insignificant moments where you choose to pause, breathe, and reclaim your power that real change happens. You might be thinking, but what does it really mean to have emotional mastery on a day-to-day basis? It's simple. Emotional mastery isn't about suppressing your emotions or pretending that you don't feel anything. It's not about being a robot, detached from your emotions and unaffected by the world around you. On the contrary, Emotional mastery is about having the power to choose how you respond to your emotions rather than being controlled by them. It's about recognizing that while you can't always control what happens to you, you can always control how you choose to react. And when you do this consistently, your emotional resilience builds day by day. You begin to understand your emotional landscape deeply, and with that understanding, you develop a deeper level of mastery that allows you to navigate any situation with poise and clarity. Think of emotional mastery as the foundation of a strong, stable house. Every day, you lay another brick, another layer of awareness and control. At first it might feel like you're putting up just one brick, but over time, those bricks pile up. Your emotional responses begin to reflect your inner calm and your capacity to respond to life's challenges with patience, insight, and wisdom. You start to notice the shift in yourself, where once you would have been reactive, quick to anger or frustration, you now take a breath and choose a response that aligns with the person you are becoming, someone who is strong, steady, and emotionally intelligent. The beauty of this practice lies in its simplicity. The more you practice, the more natural it becomes to respond with mindfulness rather than reaction. It's like learning to play an instrument. At first you may feel awkward, like you're fumbling through the keys, unsure of where to place your hands. But with each practice session, you grow more confident, and before long, you're able to play with ease, tapping into a deeper sense of control and creativity. Emotional mastery works the same way. It's a muscle that gets stronger the more you use it. One of the most powerful practices in cultivating emotional mastery is the ability to pause. In today's fast-paced world, we're constantly bombarded with information, expectations, and challenges. It's easy to get swept up in the tide of urgency and react impulsively to every situation. But emotional mastery comes from taking a step back, creating space between stimulus and response, and choosing how to show up in each moment. When you pause, you give yourself the opportunity to assess the situation from a place of clarity, rather than reacting from a place of fear or overwhelm. You start to realize that you don't have to react to every comment, every action, or every challenge that comes your way. You can simply observe, breathe, and choose how you want to respond. This pause doesn't have to be long. Sometimes just a few seconds of deep breathing or a quick mental check-in can make all the difference. It's in these moments of pause that you reclaim your power. The emotional mastery habit also involves being mindful of your triggers. We all have them, certain people, situations, or experiences that push our buttons and cause us to react emotionally. The key to emotional mastery is becoming aware of these triggers and understanding why they affect you the way they do. This awareness is not about blaming others or the circumstances. It's about owning your emotional responses and choosing to shift your perspective. When you understand why something triggers you, you can take steps to disarm it. You can acknowledge the emotion without letting it take control. For example, if you know that a certain comment from a colleague always makes you feel defensive, you can prepare yourself in advance to respond with understanding rather than defensiveness. When you anticipate these emotional triggers, you empower yourself to take control of your response instead of being controlled by the situation. Another essential aspect of emotional mastery is the practice of self-compassion. This is where the habit of emotional mastery truly shines. When you're emotionally self-aware, you don't beat yourself up for feeling a certain way. You don't judge yourself for experiencing anger, sadness, or frustration. Instead, you acknowledge those feelings with kindness and understanding, and you allow them to pass through you without holding on to them. Self-compassion means embracing your humanity, the fact that you are going to feel a wide range of emotions, and that's okay. What matters is how you respond to those emotions. Self-compassion encourages you to meet yourself with the same love, patience, and understanding that you would extend to a dear friend. When you make self-compassion a daily practice, you create an inner environment of acceptance and peace, which makes it easier to maintain emotional mastery in challenging moments. The more you practice emotional mastery, the more you begin to realize that it's not about fixing your emotions, but about embracing them and learning to work with them. It's about recognizing that emotions are not good or bad, they're simply information. Emotions are your body's way of telling you something important. When you get angry, your body is signaling that something is wrong or that your boundaries are being crossed. When you feel sadness, it's often a sign that you're processing loss or change. By learning to listen to your emotions without judgment, you start to view them as allies rather than enemies. They are not something to avoid or suppress, but rather something to understand and learn from. When you embrace your emotions, you take away their power to control you. This emotional awareness also extends to your relationships. The better you are at managing your emotions, the better you will be at understanding and empathizing with others. Emotional mastery helps you build stronger, more resilient relationships because you are able to communicate your feelings with clarity and compassion. You're able to listen to others without judgment and respond with empathy, which creates an environment of trust and mutual respect. When both people in a relationship are practicing emotional mastery, the relationship becomes a safe space for growth, understanding, and connection. And finally, the emotional mastery habit is a lifelong practice. There will be times when you slip up, when you fall back into old patterns of reactivity, or when you forget to pause before responding. But that's okay. Emotional mastery isn't about perfection. It's about progress. It's about showing up each day and committing to the process of becoming more aware, more in control, and more emotionally intelligent. It's about understanding that growth is not linear and that every day is an opportunity to build upon the habits you've established. As you continue to practice emotional mastery, you'll notice a profound shift in the way you experience the world. Life will no longer feel like a constant battle to manage your emotions. Instead, you'll step into each day with a sense of calm confidence, knowing that no matter what comes your way, you have the tools to navigate it with grace and resilience. Your emotional well-being will become a rock-solid foundation that supports everything you do, and over time, you'll become the calm in the storm, the person who remains centered and empowered no matter what challenges arise. This is the true power of emotional mastery, a habit that once established will stay with you for life, 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 stay with you for life.